Are you ready for this rally? Are you ready to fight? I'm Tom Maury, President of Teamsters Local 25. I want to welcome our rank and file speakers and welcome home Sister Sarah Nelson and our brother from Local 25, General President Sean O'Brien. Let's hear it. Also, the man that's been fighting for working people for decades, Senator Bernie Sanders. Can you feel the burn? Brothers and sisters, this rally is about fighting corporate greed. And if you know at Local 25, we fight like hell. We're the best at it. We take pride in being the most militant local in this country. The Teamsters are lucky to have a leader like Sean O'Brien, who has taken Local 25 spirit and given it to the entire Teamsters Union. I think people forget that it's Teamsters, union workers like Sarah's AFA members that keep this country moving. We are the heartbeat that keeps this country, the pulse going every single day, brothers and sisters. We deserve respect, and we deserve to get compensated for the role we play. We are going to get workers their fair share. We're going to need fighters like Sarah Nelson and Sean O'Brien. And if we're going to knock some of these corporate bigwigs on their asses, we're going to need all of you to get into the fight, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much. Together we win, divided we bang. Thank you.
Hello. Kyla here is a barista and organizer at 1304 Commonwealth Avenue, Starbucks. She's been at the forefront of the Starbucks organizing effort in Massachusetts since its inception, helping to unionize stores all throughout New England.
And my friend Spencer over here is a shift manager and organizer at 874 Commonwealth Avenue. They led their store through the unionization process and are leading their store through the longest strike in Starbucks history, 36 days. Since workers in Buffalo, New York began the process to unionize in August last year, over 200 Starbucks locations across the country have voted to unionize. But rather than respecting the rights of their own workers, whose labor creates their profit, Starbucks has retaliated against thousands of workers, fired over 80 organizing partners and counting, and closed over 16 stores.
In response, we have filed over 300 unfair labor practice claims with the NLRB, but fought for the reinstatement of our fellow partners and took collective action as workers throughout the country.
All of our victories, milestones, and strides would not have been possible without the constant support of our coworkers, friends, union siblings, and community members like you all.
Yeah, give yourself a hand. When Starbucks forced partners throughout the nation to sit through mandatory meetings, told us to fear the union, and deceived us about our rights, it was the support of our coworkers and union siblings that helped us break down their lies and push forward in our fight.
And when Starbucks illegally fired 7 partners forming a union in Memphis, Tennessee, it was our union who fought for and won their reinstatement while baristas throughout the nation and community members provided mutual aid to sustain them.
When Starbucks brought in a bigoted union-busting manager to punish us for organizing, it was our coworkers who declared a strike, our community supporters that continue to show up on our picket, keeping it alive 24 hours a day, 36 days strong, and our delivery drivers, proud Teamsters, who promise not to cross our picket line.
Solidarity is what will win this fight against corporate greed, fear-mongering, and the division of the working class. And we are, once again, asking for your solidarity.
We need community supporters to sign our no contract, no coffee pledge. We need our fellow union siblings to join our Adopt a Store program to help uplift and mentor the barista organizers throughout Massachusetts and to be there for baristas enduring these brutal union busting tactics.
And importantly, we need our elected officials. We need you, Senator Sanders, to get Howard Schultz into a congressional hearing to require that he attest to his involvement in this unprecedented and illegal union busting campaign. Under oath, to hold him responsible for the crime that he has committed against his own employees and the working class as a whole.
We need all of you to stand, fight, and win together. What's good, Cambridge? I said, what's good, Cambridge? My name is Pages, and I'm a graduate researcher at MIT. MIT is a $27 billion institution. It is the largest landowner in Cambridge, and it doesn't have to pay any taxes. And you know where it derives its wealth and resources from? It's from the 5,000 graduate researchers and teachers whose work forms the core of MIT's mission. And yet, we don't get dental insurance. MIT budgets for us to pay 55% of our income in rent. Some of us who live in MIT-owned buildings even pay 60, over 70% of our incomes back to MIT as our landlords. Rationing meals just to make ends meet. Over 40% of our workforce are immigrants. During the pandemic, when MIT told us to work from home, we went and worked from home. And for our immigrants, what did MIT do? They said, while travel was still unsafe and unpredictable, they gave them an ultimatum. They told them, come back to Cambridge in 1 month or you're out of a job. And in the summer of 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, many of us were on the streets among the many millions of people rising up against the racist police brutality in this country. And we wanted to take that fight against systemic racism back to our workplace and demanded fair hiring practices and equitable resources for all of our workers, things that our black cracking workers have been demanding for over a decade, and MIT has not budged on it. You know, sometimes before a union is formed, we're not sure it's going to happen. We're scared, feel hopeless, resigned that things are always going to be this way. And that's exactly how the bosses intend to make us feel. That's exactly how the owners who don't do anything intend to make us feel. And MIT is no exception. MIT has told us repeatedly, don't bother unionizing. We're not going to negotiate with you on the cost of housing. Well, we organized a committee, talked to thousands of our coworkers, and won our union election this April by a union margin. The most important lesson of our victory is that it has transformed our conception of who we are and what we can do. And it has inspired graduate workers across the country that they can do it too. We can have better lives. We can make positive changes. And we can win too if we organize and we fight. And someday, with every victory of our class, they expand and inspire our conception of what is possible. That which seemed impossible not long ago is suddenly on the table. Say it with me, Cambridge. When we fight, we win. 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 Thank you.
What's going on, Cambridge? So my name is Dominic Consiglio. I'm an Avello Airlines flight attendant. I'm also the president for the AFA-CWA representing Avello Airlines. amazing turnout this is. I mean, this is beautiful. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. A little bit about myself. Prior to being a flight attendant, I was a registered behavioral therapist. I worked predominantly with children with autism and Down syndrome, and I found myself into the career of the airlines, and now I'm a flight attendant. I come from a lower middle class family in New Haven, Connecticut. My mother was a single mom working 2 jobs every day, make ends meet, living paycheck to paycheck. So when I tell you I'm not only here because I lived it, I'm continuing to live it, and I understand the struggle. With that being said, I'm honored to be here with so many great leaders in the labor rights movement, like my international president, Sarah Nelson, the one and only Senator Bernie Sanders, and Teamsters President Sean O'Brien. When I tell you, I've never spoken in front of a crowd like this, so it's certainly intimidating, but vulnerability is key, and I know they're here to guide us and support us and give us direction for true work, equitable work standards, livable wages, and professional developments in our careers. To see you all here gives me incredible hope for our future and the working class people. I mean, look at you all here. This is solidarity. This is exactly what it's all about. We must continue to fight and use our voices and work together. We're at a pivotal time in our labor rights movement. Cost of living continues to rise. No pay increases for the middle class. But believe me, those corporate millionaires get those bonuses. Yeah. Eat the rich. But listen, complacency is our biggest enemy, and we must continue to avoid it at all costs. If you start to lose hope, turn to your community, turn to your coworkers, find inspiration through them by listening to them, listen to their struggles. Identify your organizers in your workplaces and community, work together, show up in numbers like today, and fight to be heard. If you are not unionized, I challenge you to collaborate and become unionized. And please, avoid getting caught up in anti-union propagation. Instead, ask yourself why corporations will spend millions of dollars on investing in union-busting attorneys, etc., instead of investing that in us, the employees, the faces of our companies. CEOs, VPs, they're not the faces. We are. Together in solidarity, we can achieve it, and we get what we deserve. So keep pushing back, keep standing up, and most importantly, have each other's backs. We're all we have. We have some really great speakers tonight, and I hope they inspire you as much as they inspire me. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carla LeBlanc. I'm proud to stand here and represent St. Vincent nurses, but also representing all essential workers. Many of you know about our fight and have supported us. And when St. Vincent's took on the longest strike in Massachusetts nurses' history and the longest strike in 15 years in the country, let's be clear, this was never about money. They had the money. We asked for safe staffing. They paid $100 million to block it. They could have easily invested these resources to hire more than enough nurses to meet our needs. We asked for improved health care benefits. They could have insured all 700 nurses who went on strike for 21 years. We asked for enhanced security, knowing that healthcare workers are 12 times more victims of workplace violence than any other profession and are assaulted more than police officers or prison guards. They paid $4 million for police details to protect their building and those that crossed our picket line. This was never about what they couldn't afford. It was about silencing nurses during a pandemic, hoping we were at our weakest so that they could break us. We walked out on March 8th in 2021 with snow-covered streets. We endured heavy spring rains, tornado warnings, oppressive heat waves, leaves fell, and then we snowed again. But our fight started long before that, with years of unsafe staffing that prevented us from providing care that our patients and community deserved. The initial fight was for safe staffing, and in August, we negotiated a fair compromise, but no deal was reached because Tenet refused to allow nurses to return to their pre-strike positions. The nurses who benefited from the staffing improvements then pushed through 4 more months of striking so that we could all walk into that building together. The divide that they tried to push prior to the strike was a constant theme, and we never gave up on our union or each other. We were committed to no nurse left behind. What Tenet didn't know what they were up against with the 700 Central Mass nurses. We had the backing of all of our local leaders, like with Congressman Jim McGovern, Senators Warren and Markey, State Reps David LaBeouf and Mary O'Keefe, and our secret weapon, Labor Secretary Marty Walsh. With the constant support of local, national, and international unions, we sustained longer than we could imagine. We spent Wednesday nights in the Teamsters Local 170 meeting hall strategizing and supporting each other. Thank you to the local Ann Sean O'Brien. We traveled to Dallas with Sarah Nelson, and our sister and former and honorary St. Vincent's nurse. Her and her AFA-CWA family to deliver a petition to Tenet headquarters. We were inspired to keep going with generous donations, food, and feet on the line. We refueled at our Starbucks, and we were inspired by those baristas across the street from the hospital who, while we were on strike, organized, then unionized, and went on strike themselves. We signed our tentative agreement in IBEW Local 103, mediated by Marty Walsh. These people really don't know the power and the connections that we have. So when Amazon wants to put their money into the safety of a rocket to send Bezos into space, they have the money to recognize ALU and provide a safe workplace. When UPS CEO sits in his air-conditioned office counting billion-dollar profits, he can provide air conditioning and staffing to the Teamsters. When Delta CEO thinks that his flight attendants need to play video games while counting his profits, he can stop playing union-busting games and let his flight attendants unionize. When I can pay my student loans for 20-plus years, the graduate union can get paid over the summer. When Starbucks charges more for a venti cappuccino than they pay in hourly wages and would rather shut down stores than negotiate, they can pay a living wage. And when for-profit healthcare CEOs can pay $100 million for a strike, they can provide safer care for patients and staff. When 700 nurses, hundreds of baristas, 100,000 UPS drivers, 20,000 Delta flight attendants fight back, the world is inspired, and we will stand with them and any worker who seeks a protected voice for themselves, their families, their communities. We will not stop the fight as long as it takes. And as the saying goes, one day longer, one day stronger. And shout out to Minnesota Nurses Association and the 15,000 nurses who authorized a strike this week. Solidarity.
Yes, Sarah!
Hey, come on! It's time for everybody to get on their feet. This is a rally! am proud to be here with Teamsters President Sean O'Brien and Senators Bernie Sanders, Organizer-in-Chief. Let me tell you something. This rally is not a political rally. This rally is for you. Yesterday in Philly, when Bernie got up on the stage, people were obviously very excited. And somebody yelled out, "It should have been you." And he said, "It is me. I'm here with you. This is about you. This is your rally. We are the ones to take it back. We are the ones to determine what capitalism is going to look like. We're going to write the rules. Enough of the fucking corporate class." Now I know, at this park, there have been a lot of rallies. There have been a lot of rallies for social justice, for voting rights, civil rights, LGBTQ plus rights, women's rights, and there's going to be a hell of a lot more rallies right here. But do you know what connects us all? And do you know what makes it possible for us to fight for our rights? Working people's rights. And that's what we're here to talk about today. There is massive inequality in this country. And we like to talk about the fact that our democracy is on the brink of collapse. But that is not really telling the true story, is it? No. Because the democracy that we operate in is behind a system of unchecked capitalism that needs to be put in check by the working class. You heard Dominique Consiglio up here a few minutes ago, our new president for Avello Local 50, who just organized this year a startup airline that started after the pandemic by a CEO who went from United Airlines to Allegiant Airlines to starting up his own airline, and started right away with the idea that they were a family. They were a family that had to pull themselves up by their bootstraps to start this new airline until the workers started to organize. And then they hired one of the most expensive union-busting firms in the country to spend $3,500 a day on union lawyers to fight their own family members. Whoa. Dominic has rallied his flying partners, and let me tell you something. When they had their election, there were so few flight attendants left to vote because it's such a bad place to work that the company is arguing that they shouldn't recognize the union. Just like Amazon, just like Starbucks, just like everywhere else in this country, it is the same fight everywhere. And all of us are taking on the few of them. And when we understand that, when we take that into our hearts, that they have money and right now they have control, but we have the power, this stuff is going to change like that. The great labor organizer, Mother Jones, said, "The capitalists say there is no need of labor organizing, except the fact that they themselves are continually organizing and show their real beliefs. The capitalists want the most amount of labor for the least amount of money. Labor wants the most amount of money for the least amount of labor." We get to live our lives, don't we? Labor builds the palaces and makes all the worth in this world, but neither dwells in the palaces nor spends that wealth that we create. If you would only understand that you hold the whole solution in the palm of your hands. For if every industry were to simply hold up and stop working, the capitalists would yield to any and all demands, for the world could simply not go on. Virginia. They were hanged for the Haymarket Affair in Chicago, beaten on an overpass near Detroit. There were beatings at Stonewall and San Francisco City Hall. And those activists thought it was important enough to put everything on the line to fight for themselves and their families and the rest of us. And today it's our turn. The capitalists today, yet, are not turning on us with guns and clubs and knives. They have their lawyers in the state houses and in the courthouses do their dirty work. We have to understand that social justice is directly tied to economic justice. Because the only way they can get away with it is to divide us, and we will not be divided. Sexism, racism, ageism, any kind of phobia has been the premier tactic of the boss. And so when we see it, we have to understand that. In our workplaces, this is not a self-selecting place that we go. It's one of the last places in America where we can have a conversation with each other because we have common demands. When we see each other as human beings on the line. I was on the picket line with GM in 2019. And those workers out there were talking about the same issues that flight attendants were talking about in the local council meeting that I was at the week before. Two-tiered systems, a destruction of our health care, and the inability to get your benefits because the company decides the scheduling, forced overtime, no more sick leave, no more vacation. We have the same issues. And if you are done with stock buybacks for Wall Street and pension defaults for Main Street, build your union. If you believe, like the nurses at St. Vincent showed us, that health care should be a human right and we should have safe staffing for all, build your union. If you want to help the Teamsters take on UPS and make an example of them for the rest of corporate America so they have to think twice about taking us on, build your union! Yesterday, Sean, Bernie, and I all took flights on American Airlines. Guess what? The hard-working people on the front lines of American Airlines, let's get this straight, they're union members and they got us everywhere on time. 85% union at American Airlines. So when the pandemic struck and we decided we were not going to let this crisis define us, we were going to put our demands central, we were able to say to American Airlines and the other airlines, you're going to have to go with our plan. It's going to be a workers' first package. The money that we get from the government can only go to the pay and benefits of the people on the front lines. No furloughs, no reductions in hourly rates, and a ban on stock buybacks and a cap on executive compensation. And because of our union power, they had to do it. They had to do it. But let me tell you something. Delta Airlines is the last major airline without a flight attendant union. In fact, while the rest of the airline industry is 85% organized, Delta Airlines is only 23% organized with the pilots who have been there since the 40s. And do you know what Delta did during that time? When their airline was on the line, this entire country was shutting down. People were losing their lives and their livelihoods. The only thing that they did in Washington during that time, when we were putting together this historic Workers' First package, was fighting against a provision that we had in the draft that said that they would have to follow the law and respect the rights of their employees to join a union and not spend $1 federal on union busting. That's what they spent their time doing. So how many of you know a Delta Airlines flight attendant? If we want to change this world, we start by organizing where capital exists, in our workplaces. That's how we're going to change our democracy. Talk to those Delta flight attendants. Tell them to sign their union cards. And let's win the biggest private sector unit in the country, organizing drive that's happening right now at Delta Airlines. And make sure that flight attendants are connected through our union so that we can spread the message far and wide all around the globe, across every border, that working people have the power to change this world. Working people, when we stand together, when we have each other's backs, have the power to change this world and get what we need. The billionaires will keep going. But even on those dick rockets that they built to go out into space, will they leave the rest of us burning on this earth? Even there are flight attendants on those rockets who asked us if we could help them unionize. So, get this in your heads. We are one, and we are everywhere. We got this handled. They think they're safe on their golf courses and in their boardrooms. Guess what? Who serves them their lunch in their boardrooms, and who serves us the caddy on at their golf courses? Working fucking people! We are one! We are everywhere! That's the United Mine Workers in America who are on strike right now in Alabama. Can we stand with them to win their strike? Do we stand against the ruling from the NLRB Region 10 operating on their own that says that they have to pay for the lost profits of the company during that strike? Fix it now! President Biden!
Fix it now!
General Counsel Abruzzo, fix it now! Working people need the right to strike. And I'm about to introduce you to a man who is not afraid to say strike. In fact, thanks to the good people, starting with Teamsters in Local 25 right here, who helped to make this park beautiful for us, by the way. And thanks to Teamsters all over this country, I got to attend a meeting with union leaders from around the world who represent transportation workers. And at his very first union meeting as the general president of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien said, "That's nice, y'all, these issues that you're talking about." I don't think he used y'all, that's not quite his style. Mrs. O'Brien would be like, "What the hell? That is not how I raised my son." He said right there in that room, let's talk about the thing that's going to change everything. Let's talk about how transportation workers can shut this economy down around the world. And the multinational capitalists will have to answer to us with a general strike. I am so glad he is my comrade in this fight. I am so glad that he believes in progressive values and fighting through racism and sexism to build up the union for everyone. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you love, what you look like, where you worship, or whether you worship at all. If you're
greatest leaders Local 25 is ever going to see. My members at Local 25 and Young President Local 25, Tom Murray. I also want to recognize the world's oldest Teamster in the world. He was actually a waiter at the Last Supper, as we talked about Rome and the Vatican. Retiree President Joe Conti. Now, being union leaders, being union activists, we all have titles, we all have positions. We have these fancy titles that we love. I'm a president, I'm a general secretary treasurer, I'm a trustee, whatever the case may be. I'm a business manager. But you know what my favorite title in the world is? Dad. My son Sean is a fourth-year apprentice in the Plumbers Union. He's a fifth-generation trade unionist. Like all of you here today, he continues to inspire me every single day to get up with a burning desire and push back on those schoolyard bullies known as corporate America and these corrupt politicians who don't seem to get it. Well, they're going to get it moving forward more ways than one. Sarah said how we were in the Vatican, and she was right. We were out there trying to formulate an agenda worldwide. And we're doing that because, I think you've heard me say this a few different times, that the power of collaboration is going to truly effectuate change within this country. And we got a very, very special opportunity to meet the Pope. Now, I had a conversation with the Pope, and he even said, corporate America, corrupt politicians, God can't even help them. Right? We're over there collaborating because these corporations in corporate America, some of them are global companies, have global presence. We've got a great opportunity to take back our unions, number one, restore faith in our respective organizations, but inspire workers to organize and join unions because they know they got millions upon millions of union members supporting their backs. I have the best job in the entire world, thanks to my Teamster members who allowed me the opportunity and privilege to lead the greatest union in the world, 1.2 million strong, and that is the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. And we can have all these fancy titles. We can fly all around the world. But we need to have results, not excuses. And when we're talking to these CEOs, or we're calling them out like we are, and we have a great leader, great advocate, and our Senator Bernie Sanders, who's not afraid to take on corporate America, not afraid to call out his colleagues in Washington. And I've witnessed it. I had the great pleasure and opportunity to testify at a Senate Budget Committee hearing where Senator Sanders set it up so that we could actually go in there and in front of some of these Republican politicians who don't like unions, who don't support unions, who are more focused on the bottom line of a balance sheet. We got to call them out. And I referred to corporate America, the Amazons, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Sergeant Schultz from Starbucks. I refer to them as white-collar criminals. Amazon, like many other corporations, are a white-collar crime syndicate. And you know the sad part of that hearing? They award Amazon billions, our government awards Amazon billions upon billions of government contracts. They reward bad behavior. It's time for us to hold these crooked politicians who we elect, and in some cases fund. We hold them accountable just like our members, just like working people are held accountable. When they're not doing their jobs, they should be fired. They should not support any business that does not embrace the right to organize. They should not reward any company that's not going to sit down after their workers wanted to join a union and negotiate a collective bargaining agreement. We should hold them accountable. We should make certain that anybody that takes on working people, they should not receive any type of government benefits or contracts. And we will continue that fight. The sad reality, my partner in crime, Sarah Nelson, said it best. These politicians don't care. All they care about is making certain that they get their large donations, making sure that they get their fancy dinners, maybe their golf games paid for by corporate America. And we have to do a better job, like at Amazon, exposing how viral this company is, how bad they treat their workers. There's 150% turnover ratio at Amazon. Amazon focuses on distressed communities around the country. They focus on highly populated immigrant distressed communities so that they can extort and exploit workers. There is no path to a full-time career. They hide behind what we all know, independent contractor models, where they aren't required to pay benefits, they aren't required to give wage increases. It's a scam. It needs to end. And these politicians need to get off their ass and start supporting the people who built America, and that's the working class. And we have that. And Senator Sanders, you're going to have that. We have that. Now, let's get back to the Three Stooges. Let's get back to Bezos, Musk. What's the other one's name? Sergeant Schultz from Starbucks?
Scumbag.
There has never been a most inspiring time for organized labor and people to organize within their workplaces. Because of those three nitwits and their bad behavior, they're actually helping us organize. They're helping us mobilize. They're helping us strategize. And they don't know it. Because when employers treat workers bad, we, organized labor, unions, are the only option to hold these white-collar crime syndicates known as corporate America accountable. And when we organize, we strategize, especially with the Amazons, the Starbucks workers. Never so proud in my life to see a youth movement trying to organize. Right? And it's not the only fight we have, but it's going to be the biggest. It's going to be the most platform on a national level we're ever going to see. But we can organize. We got to strategize. Most importantly, we're going to pulverize corporate America. But we have to do that by mobilizing our members, making sure that, like my son, who's a fifth-generation trade unionist, we got the ability, sitting around Mrs. O'Brien's dinner table, learning how important it was to be active and support the union. I learned firsthand that education on why we have such great conditions. And the one thing that we were focused on was making certain that we learned and respected the organization that has given us everything in our entire lives, given us great opportunity. And it's time we do a better job of educating that next generation of workers. Because most of those next generation of workers that we're seeing in the workplace right now, and we talk about mobilizing, they've never been a generational connection to the unions. They don't know how hard it is to protect and preserve and improve working conditions. We have to teach them about the struggles. Our Teamster retiree president spent many years in the trenches fighting, striking, sacrificing, so that we can enjoy affordable health care. We can afford middle-class living. We can afford to buy homes. But most importantly, we can afford to retire with a pension and maintain our dignity, current working class America. We have to ensure that we give them the knowledge, the history of why unions are so important, why they're so powerful. We have to make certain they understand the discipline that went on, the sacrifice, but we also have to embrace new ideas, new ways, new strategies. I am so excited to be a part of this time right now. And I took over an organization that was asleep for 10 years. 1.2 million members. We touch every mode of transportation nationwide. We're in airlines, we're in trucking, we're in railroads, and we're in maritime. Now, these white-collar crime syndicates, known as corporate America, and these corruptible politicians, and I have a dream and a goal. You know, everybody wants to make an example out of something. We take a bold action somewhere just to send a message. I think we do that in our personal lives. I think we do it in our professional lives. But the bold move that I would love to see, for one day, we all unite and shut down commerce to show how important and vital we are in this country. We proved it. We proved it. You know, remember that president we had prior? Trump? Right? Remember him? Well, he could shut the government down, right? And he did. Why can't we do the same to send a message that we are back, bigger, faster, stronger? We are going to take the fight on to anybody who tries to infiltrate or hurt workers around this country. Now, Musk, Bezos, Sergeant Schultz, they need a beating. They need to know what it feels like to be pushed around by a schoolyard bully that they are. They need to understand that they're only successful because of their workers on the front line. And I think we all agree that the last 2 years during the pandemic, and I can speak for the Teamsters Union, we are all essential workers in the Teamsters Union. We were providing goods and services. We were delivering food to make sure that supermarkets' shelves were stocked. We were delivering medical supplies to support the essential workers in the hospitals, the nurses, the doctors, to ensure safety. We were out picking up trash. We were out working with total disregard, just like many or mostly all of you, for our own safety and our own health. And we were out there doing that when there was no vaccination, no protections. All the while, you were losing because if you got COVID, some cases you didn't get paid. If you got that sick and you had child care issues and you couldn't go to work, your pay suffered, your work conditions suffered. But you look at these three bozos, and you look at corporate America, their balance sheet had record profits skyrocketing. All the while, our members, or the workers, losing. We're not losing anymore. Now it's time. We proved our worth. You know, during the pandemic, when everybody was out there sacrificing, risking their own health, risking the health of their families, we were portrayed in the media as heroes. All the while, these corporate white-collar crime syndicates look at us like we're zeros. That is going to end. We've formed these coalitions. We've made certain that we're positioned globally, nationally, to take on the fight. And Teamsters has a big fight moving forward. You heard of a company called United Parcel Service? 360 Teamsters nationwide. And then we have our friends, our labor affiliates in Europe, all over the world, that are represented by transportation unions. But we are the strongest. We are the most vigilant. And you know why? Because we got 360,000 rank and file Teamster members who are sick of taking shit. Now it's time. Now it's time. Now it's time not to demand what we want. It's to demand what we're worth, and we're worth a shitload of money. Everybody, every CEO, every corporation, this is the largest collective bargaining agreement in the private sector for any union in the United States. Any union in the United States. Corporate America is looking at what we are going to do. And I've been very clear with the United Parcel Service and a lot of other employers. We've been in power for 151 days or 152 days. First order of business, went down to see the CEO of UPS. Nice lady. But I did tell her, look, you know, you came from, you were CFO at Home Depot. You used to have anti-union meetings all the time, nationwide, not allowing or not supporting the right to organize. And you want to be friends, you want to be partners, because we're partners. You know, we're all partners, right? We're partners. I said, I want to make one thing clear. I have a beautiful mother. I respect my mother. She brought us up the right way. And I will never disrespect a woman. But I will tell you this. I will put your company on their knees if you want to attack us. We're going to be out there. We're going to be fighting. Our goal is to make certain that UPS gives what we are worth. Make sure UPS understands that we are going to set the tone on how to organize by taking the most richest collective bargaining agreement in the entire labor movement and showing these workers what they're entitled to, what they can get when they mobilize, strategize, organize, and pulverize these corporations. Now look, we are building a movement. You're all part of a movement here. But it can't be done with 3 or 4 people. Bernie, Sarah, myself. We can't do this. We'll try, but we need people to engage. We need people to be involved. Being a union member, being a leader, being a worker, trying to organize is not a spectator sport. You can't sit on the sidelines and hope and pray someone scores that touchdown for you. You've got to engage, get in the fight. Because if you truly want change, with change comes tremendous sacrifice. And that sacrifice might not be comfortable. But the one thing we have that corporate America and these corruptible politicians don't have, we got heart. We got intestinal fortitude. We got courage and conviction to ensure victory. And I got a message. I got a message for corporate America. I got a message for these corrupt politicians in Washington. And I have to look at that stupid building every single day and get aggravated. I got a message for all of them. When you take on one of us, you take on all of us. The Teamsters Union is 1.2 million strong. And they need to understand, any of our partners in labor, any of our members, any workers that want to organize, if they do not do the right thing and support our members, we will put them on the street. They have to understand, Teamsters don't cross picket lines. We will support every single union, every single fight. The one thing you have to understand how important it is. Your fight today may not be my fight. However, that fight tomorrow may be mine. We need to support each other. We need to make understood that we are one. Labor is back. We're bigger. We're faster. We're stronger. And one thing I will say, you take one of us on, you take us all on. And hey, listen, here's the best part. We get the ability every single day to fight schoolyard bullies. We get the ability to be strong because we're one. And the message that I got today, for all these scumbag CEOs, for all these corruptible politicians, and these white-collar crime syndicates, you fuck with us, we fuck with you. It's a full contact sport. It's a full contact sport. Put your helmets on and buckle your chin straps. Has a million fathers. And I speak a little funny, I'm sorry. But failure is an orphan, right? We wouldn't be able to have this movement nationwide without having someone that truly believes how important it is for workers to organize, who truly believes in accountability for CEOs, accountability for corporate America, and a person who is out there every single day fighting for the working class, fighting to restore strength and dignity for the people like all of us and our forefathers and foresisters who helped build this great America that we live in every single day. And you don't see this often. You know, when people are out, they'll give a little speech, politicians, they'll tell you how they're with you, and they're really not. Well, I got to tell you this. There's one person that hasn't wavered once on the working class. There's one person I know is not corruptible. And there's one person who is responsible for building this momentum nationwide. I'm proud to be a part of this movement. But most importantly, I'm proud we have a senator like Bernie Sanders.
It's a hard task following Sarah and Sean. I'll try. You know, as I look out at you today, I'm thinking back and hearing what Sarah and Sean and the other speakers talked about. I'm thinking back about my childhood. And I grew up in a 3.5-room rent-controlled apartment in a town called Brooklyn. I'm not here to tell you that our family was poor. We were not. My dad went to work every day and he worked hard, but he never saved any money. What he made went to pay the bills. And I can tell you that in our family there was always stress and arguments about not having enough. My mother always wanted a home of her own. In Brooklyn, we call it a private house, not an apartment. She died young and she never saw that. And those values and that reality that I grew up with is something that I have never, ever forgotten. And God willing, I will never, ever forget. And what that means is that as we look out over our country today, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, what we see is that half of our people are living as my family did, paycheck to paycheck. We are looking at 500,000 Americans who are homeless. And here's something that we should never forget, that in the last 50 years, despite a huge increase in worker productivity, Sean, your workers, Sarah, your workers, far more productive than they were 50 years ago. Real inflation accounted for wages today are lower than they were 50 years ago. And meanwhile, as the working class struggles, and in many cases fall further and further behind, you got 3 people on top, the 3 bozos that Sean referred to, who now own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. You know, the corporate media allows us to get outraged about this and about that. Well, whether they like it or not, we have the moral responsibility to be outraged when 3 people own more wealth than half of American society, when the top 1% are earning 45% of all incomes, when corporate CEOs are now making 350 times what their workers are making. That is not the America we accept. We're going to change it big time. And what Sean and Sarah and every other trade unionist understands, that when you are in a union, you earn better wages, you earn better benefits, you have better working conditions, and you actually understand what a pension is. Maybe even more important than all of that, what a union does is make you not a cog in a machine. You have some power, some say, over your work life. You got a piece of paper called a contract, and your boss cannot do anything he or she wants. What we are seeing today, and all of our speakers, and Sean and Sarah have spoken to it, is we are seeing something extraordinary. We are seeing a rebirth of the American trade union movement from coast to coast. We're talking about blue-collar workers. We're talking about white-collar workers. We're talking about young people. We're talking about older people. All across the sector. In my city, Burlington, Vermont, you got doctors who are residents at a hospital having organized a union to negotiate for decent wages. So growing the union movement gives us economic power, gives us dignity, gives us respect on the job, but it gives us something more. Right now, it is no secret to anybody here, anybody in America, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, no secret that you got a handful of billionaires who not only control the economy, they control the political life of this country. And these vultures are putting, I'm going to control my vocabulary here a little bit, but these vultures are putting billions of dollars into campaigns to elect people who will toady to them and to defeat candidates who stand for working families. They control the political process and they control the economy. And by the way, they control the media as well. And one of the things that the media tells us every single day, it tells us through their politicians, through their corporate leaders, it says, think small, not big. Don't have any dreams of what we can be as a nation. At best, maybe you'll get a little thing. And we say, to hell with that. We're thinking big. We want to transform this country. Now, the corporate leaders and the media, pundits and politicians, they tell us, hey, we cannot do what every other major country on earth does and guarantee health care to all people as a human right. I say to hell with you. We can do it. We will do it. You know, the nurses who are here will tell you. The nurses will tell you there's something wrong with the health care system in which we spend twice as much per capita as the people of other country, and yet you got 70 million people uninsured or underinsured, and the cost of health care is soaring. It is not a radical idea to say that when you are sick, you walk into a doctor's office. If you end up in a hospital, you do not have to take out your wallet. Health care is a human right, not a privilege. When we talk about our national priorities, Sean and Sarah we're talking about the young people, not only young workers, but children. Now you tell me how it could be when 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of America, that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth? Tell me that. Tell me why we have a dysfunctional child care system. Tell me why we're the only major country on earth not to have paid family and medical leave. Tell me why kids can't afford to go to college or leave school $50,000 or $100,000 in debt. Tell me, I just met with some folks here in Boston this morning, and they tell me, and I guess it's true, that you want to rent a small apartment at something like $3,000 bucks? $3,000 for the month. Well, how the hell do you survive if you're paying $3,000 for a small apartment? All right, don't tell me we cannot build the affordable and low-income housing. Don't tell me we can't have rent control. Don't tell me we cannot end starvation wages. And that's why we got to raise that minimum wage to a livable wage that's above $15 an hour. For workers to form unions. All across this country now, given the economic crises that we have suffered for the last many years, workers understand that unions are a positive aspect of our society. They want to join unions. But as Sean and Sarah and others have said and spoke here, they are seeing, these workers are seeing enormous opposition from their corporate bosses. They are intimidating organizers. They're firing people. They're bringing people into compulsory backroom meetings telling them how terrible the unions are, and yet workers continue to persist. Now, we need in Washington to give the union movement a strong piece of legislation that says we're going to end that intimidation and we're going to demand a first contract at a reasonable period of time. And in my view, we should do what other countries are doing. And that is if 50 workers in a shop sign a card saying they want a union, you know what? They have a union. So what this is all about, politics, if you get through all of the bullshit, is not complicated. It is that you have a problem in America today, very serious problems. It's a health issue. All of us know the serious issue of addiction. We have friends who are addicted to drugs, people who are addicted to alcohol, people addicted to cigarettes, food, whatever it may be. Well, there is another addiction that we don't talk about much in America, and that is that the corporate elite are addicted to greed. Everybody wants to have a decent standard of living. Everyone wants that money. You want to have your home. You want to be able to spend time with your family. You want your kids to get educated. You want to go on a vacation. It's all natural. That's what people want. But how many people think they need billions and billions of dollars? And how many people think they're going to crush working people by the United States Congress to get more tax rates because $50 billion is not enough and they need $100 billion? Frankly, that is sick. That is sick stuff. We've got to take on this greed, this uncontrollable greed, and we have to create an economy and a government that works for all of us and not just the few. So what today is about, and others have said it better than I, what today is about is bringing people together. We are all in this together. Everybody I know wants a home. You got to eat. You want decent education. You need health care. You want some vacation time. You want to breathe clean air, drink clean water. You want to raise your kids with dignity in good schools. That's what everybody wants. And what the people on top do is try to divide us up based on the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation. And what we are saying today is we are in this together. The billionaires have the money. We have the people. at the center of that must be a strong trade union movement. Brothers and sisters, let's be clear. We are taking on an enormously powerful oligarchy. No ifs, buts, and maybes. They have unlimited wealth, and I mean unlimited. They own the media. They own a large part of our government. But our job now, for the sake of our children and future generations, is to stand together and to proclaim loudly and clearly, as Woody Guthrie did a long time ago, this land is our land. Brothers and sisters, let us go forward together. Let's take back this country. Let's create a government and an economy that works for all of us. Thank you very much.